This is a 1994 Johnson 25 horsepower outboard. It is a tiller electric start long shaft outboard. Pretty nice. The owner says that he put in a new water pump and it just doesn't pump water. So right off the bat, there's a couple of things I think. First and foremost is probably a cheap or import water pump, not an OEM. However, I was quickly proven wrong on that one when he showed me the parts that he bought. So that's not the case here. The second thing I think it could be is a problem with the muffs. These aren't as bad, but like the 9.9s, they're notoriously bad trying to use them on the muffs. They just don't work. So these not so much. These usually are fine, but every now and then you get a crappy muff and it doesn't work. So this is falling apart. It just doesn't seal. It's a pretty nice motor. Anyway, engine has been relocated to the desk. Top half, I see no issues, but we gotta get the lower fixed. So we do have a broken screen here. That kind of sucks. But this was off not too long ago when the water pump was changed, so these parts are not stuck. It's simply the fact that that bottom one rotates is a nice sign. You know, it's still hard to get these wrenches in here. So that is the retainer that we got to get off. There's a little slot in it somewhere. Right there. It's a good idea when you're ordering parts to order a spare one of these. You're supposed to change it when you remove it. I don't know exactly the price. I think it's like $9, so it's not cheap. But when you're ordering stuff like a water pump, whatever company is probably going to charge you shipping. So if you don't order one of these and you break it and you need to order one, now the $9 part's going to cost you an additional, $6 to whatever dollars in shipping. So it's a good idea to have one, regardless of if you try to save the old one or not. You can order one and just keep it somewhere, just in case, So the keeper's off, which will now allow our shift rod to slide out. And I screwed that bushing back in just a thread, just to hold it. Now I'll remove the screws, these, and then the one on the front, and two on the opposite side to get the lower off. So this is interesting. What is going on? It's interesting that this came out. That usually doesn't happen. That's weird. But hey, whatever. Clean it up and put it back in there. It's just unusual. Now the water tube spacer bracket, yeah, that'll come and go. No rhyme or reason on that one. Might as well put the water tube back in there too. Okay. Doesn't look bad. Looks slightly used, but it really hasn't been. Get it apart. So if you're curious, all I'm really doing is looking at the water pump to see if there's any real damage. Housing looks fine, just dirty. And here is our water pump. Cup obviously looks fine. Fins, you can see a little bit of wear, but it's really pretty nice and pliable, flexible. It's a pretty nice water pump. So that plate just came right off. You can see traces of the old gasket still here. I'll have to take care of that. Let's see if we could save this gasket. Probably not. This is a real nice engine. Like, look at the seal, the drive shaft itself, you know, the housing, it's real nice. I got some pretty low hours on it. Alright, so all we're going to do is clean up the mating surface here of all the old gasket, which wasn't the new gasket, that's from the original gasket, or the prior gasket. Okay, just to preventative maintenance, I'm going to run a 1/4-20 thread chaser, bottom one. Down those screw holes, make sure that nothing in there. Okay, with the surface cleaned up, I have a new base gasket. This was the Evinrude gasket sealing compound. Now it's the Permatex Aviation gasket sealing compound. If you mentioned it previously, but if you've ever worked on these things for a while and recognize this stuff, right when you open the can, you recognize it's the identical stuff. The Evinrude gasket compound was just repackaged of this stuff. And this stuff, I'm sure, is repackaged something else. All right. This thing goes back on. Like so. Oh, I cleaned up the backside too. Well, and the top. All right, now I've got to clean up the housing. Just clean off whatever. There's no sealant on there. Who am I kidding? That's just oil and water. You know. So something was used here on this O-ring. I don't know what. It's almost like it was super glue, the way it's held in there. Because it's not coming out. Yeah, I don't know what was, it's got to be super glue. But whatever he used in here, I'm basically just chipping this out of here. It's rock hard almost. So it didn't come out as nice as I would hoped, but that was ridiculous. But yeah, I'm thinking he was struggling getting the whole thing back together, so he decided to just glue it down. I mean, it makes sense, I guess. You know, putting some triple guard grease on that bottom O-ring. Put some on that too. Now the cup goes in like so. I put the impeller back in already, as you can see. Now we need some of the 3M 847 to glue in. This is like weather stripping compound, if you will. So it's not that it's going to glue it in like, you know, the super glue that I just removed, scraped out of there rather. I don't know, it's like a rubber sealant. Anyway, this I have out of one of the aftermarket water pump kits, so this O-ring should do fine. The aftermarket water pump kits, usually what fails is the impeller, but their gasket and the rubber, they should do just fine. All right, the drive shaft simply lifts out of the lower, so I removed it. Makes life a little easier putting this thing together. So now what I can do, I'm gonna just put a drop of this on there. As stringy and annoying as it is, just to kind of hold it. Now the key's back on, impeller's in there, and sealant is in there, so just got to slide it onto the housing. just like so. Put some sealant onto the threads of these screws, the gasket sealing compound. All right, I'm going to put some triple guard grease onto the grommet, like so, and then the O-ring on the water tube that I took out, I'm going to put it down there below and above. Okay, we got some Moly Lube, which is the drive shaft lubricant. Put that onto the splines. I don't see any previously. It looks like there was something in there, but there ain't any more. All right, that bolt in the front, it gets stuck in that housing from time to time. So what I'm going to do, which I kind of always do, is put some of this on that bolt in hopes that next time this thing needs to come off there, that's not going to get stuck. Sometimes you get lucky and you can just, tap it with a mallet and get it out of there. Sometimes you're going in there with the saws all cut in that way, hoping to get the stud out. It's ridiculous. All right, the bolts that attach the lower unit to the housing, they are wire wheeled and one is dipped with a gasket compound. So the lower is ready to go back on. Slide the drive shaft into the drive shaft tube. Line the shift rod into the water pump. Now the water tube is the fun part, because this all has to go at the same time. All right, drive shaft splines are aligned, but the water tube is nowhere near where it needs to be. So, get my little flashlight. Well, actually it's a headband. I can kind of put that in there. And I could use something to push that water tube over. While I slide this up. So you can see where the water tube is versus the grommet. So I'm going to put a little pressure upwards, and it's touching it. And I'm barely pinching the tube onto the upper grommet. I can come in with something and just kind of nudge it over just a pinch. It should fall right into where it needs to go. There we go. Piece of cake, right? Well, I got it off, cleaned the lower unit up a little bit. Now it's time to put this keeper back in. All right, well, that was pretty uneventful. It's screen went back on, lower them back together. Pretty well. Okay, water will be flowing in a second. I already pumped the gas. Give it a little bit of choke, probably too much. And start. Well, still a good motor. Pumps water even on questionable muffs now. So we definitely got a little more suction going on and running good. So all in all, I think all it needed was the proper sealants and care on the water pump, and looks like we're fine. So I don't know. Hope this video is helpful. I'll see you next time.